Hi, it's Musolini, the merchant of success. Welcome to this exciting topic, how to pass a job interview. This is 2.0 because some of you must have received version 1.0, those of you who signed up for the list. So this is version 2.0 reloaded. All right, let's rock and roll indeed. So these are the 5 segments I follow when I'm presenting. Clarity in terms of the what and why. We look at the mindsets, the critical mindsets required, and in terms of how to pass a job interview, the strategies, the skill sets, and of course, the mastery in terms of how do you own this information so that it's part and parcel of who you are. Let's kick off with clarity. First of all, we need to double check, why is this skill critical, the skill of passing oral interviews? Truth of the matter is the job market is super competitive, not so competitive, but super competitive because so many people are educated. I remember in one of the sessions I was talking about how before having a degree was a big deal. Now these days, even having a master's is not a big deal because there are so many competitors out there. So it is a super tight engagement. Some of you have seen adverts, no, not adverts, but in the papers where there is an announcement and then you see people having long lines competing for just a few jobs. This can help you truly land a job of your dreams. I know I have coached some people who have landed jobs with some of the biggest entities, including UN agencies, World Bank, and I mean at an international level. So this can really help you land some cool jobs. From entry to high-level jobs, to CEO level jobs. So I've coached people from, again, just their first job to CEO level to people going for international jobs, whether it's mainly World Bank and UN agencies. Those are the ones where, as of this recording, I'm sure more successes will come. Who knows? IMF could be next. All right. Passing an interview is a skill that can be learned, just like any other skill. So just know that in life, all protocols, not all protocols, all industries have their way of doing and being. And it's just about cracking the code in terms of what are people looking for before they make a decision, whether you're selling something or in this case, when you're selling your services. Okay. The other key thing to remember is that why this is key is it can be stressful when you keep failing at job interviews. I remember one of the ladies came to me and said, Ethan, I've failed 5 times at my job interview, at the job interviews. And she said, look, and yet I know I have an excellent work ethic. My history is excellent, but how come I keep failing? And the challenge was she didn't know how to package her past successes. That was the big challenge. So I engaged with her, and guess what? She's now one of my success stories at one of the UN agencies in one of the countries I wouldn't want to mention. So here are some interesting facts. And when I say interesting facts, these should prompt you, this should alert you in terms of the things that you really need to pay attention to. Number one is that 38% don't hire because of voice quality and overall confidence levels and a lack of a smile, okay? So meaning, these stats should alert you in terms of the things you need to tune yourself into or to fine tune or to pay attention to when you're going for an oral interview. And this could be face-to-face or it could be on Zoom, online. Okay. So the voice quality, meaning ideally speak from your diaphragm, and of course I may not go into the details around the voice. I would encourage you to check out my program, Public Speaking Masterclass. I have a full module on that. There are 10 modules in public speaking. And by the way, that's a skill which is also very important with oral interviews. But I have a full module on voice, which would help you with that. But I want to talk about the other two. I want to give you some quick thoughts around confidence level and lack of a smile. A smile, if you don't know how to smile, please get in front of a mirror and practice. Practice smiling, and please have a natural smile. Do not wear a plastic smile. People will know that you're faking it. So practice in front of a mirror, and you can ask people to look out for you, to look out in terms of how you're doing with your smile. Then the other key is overall confidence levels. So I'll be giving you a framework around confidence levels, or how to boost your confidence levels. But there's one quick tip I want to, not the how to boost, but the mindset. And by the way, I did a whole program on confidence in the earlier weeks. So those of you who have recordings, who have purchased the recordings or are planning to purchase the recordings, have a full program on how to boost your confidence. But let me give you one tip that never fails. The one tip, which to me is priceless and is worth all your time that you're going to spend with me, is this. Here is the key. Number one, if the job is yours, no one can take it from you. Meaning, if God says yes, no one can say no. So when you enter the room, you enter with absolute confidence, knowing that, well, the number one job you need to do is to perform at your very best, and then God does the rest. So if it's yours, then it's yours, period. Why do I speak with absolute confidence in that regard? I recall, well, of course, I need to go super fast, but this story I have to share with you, this I know is one of the core things that make people fail. So I recall in 2004, I was going for an interview to become a training consultant with the British Council. And 2004, I was 27 years old. So that should give you an idea of how old I am. And the people I was competing with, they were high level. They were older, they had more experience. In fact, they were on average in their 40s, including one who was an international consultant and all that. So, but by the way, one of the things I remember that actually helped me was that part of the interview was to make a 10 minutes presentation. So because I was excellent with public speaking, I believe that also helped a lot. But now there was a tie. So there was someone who believed in me very strongly. And there were three others who didn't know, who wanted the other person to be engaged. So the lady from British Council, who really is the one who believed in me, by the way, she said, you know what, let these two candidates go and meet the country director, and the country director will make a decision. And guess what? The country director made a decision to pick me. And I mean, these are people who didn't know me. It's not like someone slotted in my name. I wasn't the Ethan I was then. So the point I'm making is it was really my job. No one could take it away from me. And I really did an excellent job for a couple of years. I consulted for British Council for more than 10 years, and I really had an excellent record. So if anything, at least that should give you the confidence that if it's your job, then it's yours. So when you enter that room, you don't enter doubting or questioning, you enter with absolute confidence, saying, look, all I need to do is to do my best and God does the rest. The other mindset I believe in is, if it's not your job, then if you don't get it, then it's preparation for a better job. All right, 67% interviewers have had an unsuccessful candidate due to them being unable to make eye contact. Please look at people in their eyes. The moment you do not keep eye contact, then the interviewing panel will Number one, imagine you're not confident. Number two, they'll imagine that you're a liar. In other words, you will not have credibility. So look at people in their eyes. And that means also when you're answering, you look at the person answering you, let's say for 50 to 60% of the time, then you connect with other people. Next. 55% of interviewers don't hire because of the way the candidate walks through the door. That's another biggie. So your interview does not start when they start asking you questions. The interview actually starts from, even when you're seated outside, sometimes there are people watching. There are some organizations who have cameras, so they are noticing how you're behaving. So it's all interview now. And also when then those who don't see, of course, the moment you enter, you have to enter with energy. You have your shoulders are up. Those of you who have purchased recordings are planning to, please study again the body language. I gave the tips on things you need to pay attention to with body language, but walk through with energy. Have a smile on your face, look like you have life, look like they should have you on board, and walk like you've already won the job. So how you walk, the attitude you bring, the energy you bring is going to affect how they perceive you. And 33% of 2,000 surveyed interviewers said they know within the first 90 seconds of the interview if they will recruit the candidate. So meaning you have to come out with guns blazing. So don't hold back, speak with passion and energy from the word God. Just know that you have to start strong and end strong. When I'm teaching people public speaking, those I coach, or some of my clients under the Executive Communication Masterclass, I always tell them, you always have to start strong and finish strong, because guess what? In the first 90 seconds, they know how you open will give them an insight. All right. So Jojo was asking, okay, please clarify on the walk. What I mean by the walk, when you walk into the room, walk like you own the room. How would you walk if you own the room? Do not walk like you're begging. There are people who walk like they're begging for space on the ground. No, you walk with energy. Of course, there's only so much I can demonstrate here, but you have to walk with energy. You have to walk like you own the space. You are the boss. Not just there to beg. No, the boss has arrived. The winner has arrived. That's how you should walk. Chin up, chest up, walk with a smile on your face, and then you enter the room. That's what I mean. So you command the room. So just imagine you own the room. This is your space. How would you walk in? So that's the mindset you carry. And I liked what Goretti posted earlier and said that I'm going to practice my walk. Practice at home. Practice at home, or if you're living alone, get some of your friends, please tell me, I just want to practice this, and let me, start you check me out. Please, I like what Emily has said. The owner of the job has arrived. Yes. Demo for us the walk. I can only demonstrate so much, Thomas. But what I know is, walk with long strides, and then wear a smile on your face, meaning look happy. Do not look like you're suppressed, okay? Be happy, be relaxed. And that's why I'm encouraging some of us who have the recordings, definitely look out for the session on confidence and, how to supercharge your confidence. Be confident, be relaxed, and then the body language. Watch the body language and watch confidence. But the key thing is walk with energy and do long strides. And it's really about the psychology. The thing is, when you're at home, practice. If you knew that you are the most confident, most powerful, most deserving person, how would you walk? And then the walk will come naturally. The walk will come naturally. You don't even need me to demonstrate. Apart from the body language of you standing tall and having the smile on your face, the rest of the walk will come if you have the right mindset, if you tell yourself the right words. Spot on. Confidence goes a long way in paving during the interview. Also, if you don't know the answer, do not gamble. Just say up front that I don't know. No crime in that. The smile has always done tricks for me. Great. Thank you, Juliet Weiser. Appreciate that. Rodney says the smiling machine is here. And Anya says, but not laughing too much. Yeah, definitely. I hope when you walk like you own the room, you'll not be seen as braggative, depending on the interviewer's attitude as well. Hope they too can attend this so they do not interpret it otherwise. Yeah, of course, you're not going to be bragging and all that. So that's what you're telling yourself, so long as you don't verbalize it. Justin says, I've just practiced here in the mirror. But you actually smile when you feel you already have the job. Yeah, great. Thank you, Justin. You see, your attitude, what you tell yourself will influence everything. So that's why I was telling you, I don't need to demonstrate for you here. You just need to switch the psychology. The key thing is the psychology. What are you telling yourself? What you tell yourself, you see, it is psychology over biology. That's what I teach. Psychology influences biology. And once you know that, then your number one job is to make sure that your psychology is spot on. What are you telling yourself? Because you tell yourself negative things, I have lost, I can't make it, I don't, let me just try. Then even your body language will be that of, let me just try. But the moment you say, okay, I have it, this is mine, then even your body language will say, this is mine. And that's what you want to communicate. Remember, in public speaking, I typically teach that communication is the transference of emotion. What you feel is what other people will feel, all right? Cool. So mindset, let's talk about the mindset further. Juliet, I've seen your question. I will bring it in the next segment. It's going to come. Mindset, let's talk about the mindset. So, now, let me share with you extra mindsets. I know some of them have already indirectly hinted on them, but these are the mindsets. Number one, think of interviewers as your future colleagues. So that's the energy. Again, mindset is about what are you telling yourself? It is what's in here. That as a man thinketh, so is he, or as a woman thinketh, so is she. So what are you thinking here? So it's what you verbal, and then people will pick on those signals. Subconsciously. So you think of interviewers as future colleagues or partners because some of them may not necessarily be working there, but at least they could be colleagues or partners. Some of them will definitely be your future work colleagues. Some of them could be partners. They could be board members. So either way, they are either colleagues or partners. The second mindset is to think that an interview is a conversation with someone about a job you are interested in. So there are people, you see, when you enter a room and you feel like it is war, then you're going to be tense. But when you think about it as a conversation, then it relaxes you. Because the challenge is, most times you find people, they over-prepare, they know everything. Then when they enter the room, they tell me, some of the clients I've coached on how to pass oral interviews, sometimes you hear them say, you know, I prepared, I know the answers, then somehow when they asked the question, I could not answer, I stammered, I wasn't clear. And then when I was leaving, then the answers came. Then all of a sudden the answers came. So the challenge is, or the gap was that in that moment you were tense. You looked at it as a war, as a fight of some kind. And I'm here to propose to you that one of the ways to calm yourself, to calm your nerves, because when you're calm, then the blood moves very easily towards your brain, which means you're able to think clearer, you're able to speak with clarity. And when you're relaxed, by the way, it also relaxes the people around you. And that's the law of communication. So what you feel is what other people feel. So the trick is, tell yourself it's a conversation. It's a conversation. It's actually a conversation to see, for people to see, are you the perfect person or not? Or to demonstrate this, to show whether this is the job for you or not. And by the way, here is another mindset I had not highlighted, but having said this is one of the most important mindsets. Please listen carefully. Come a little close, come a little close. This is one of the most critical mindsets that you ever have, is do not just look at it as if hey, that your life depends on this, that you, I mean, do not look so desperate. That's the other key mindset that is key. Even if you really don't have a job, do not show desperation. At least pretend as if, so way of trick yourself in the best way possible to think that, you know what, part of my job is to find out, are these the kinds of people I really want to work with? So as they're interviewing you, just imagine you're also going to interview them. You're going to have a conversation to see, are you a perfect fit for one another? Because the truth is, you might talk to people and then you discover, these are not the kinds of people I want to work with. You might pick the vibe. The vibe might tell you that this is not the place. So that's a powerful mindset, that it's not a one-way traffic to determine whether you qualify or not. You should also wear the mindset in your head. Are these the kinds of people I want to work with? Now, when you do, that will take the air of desperation away from you. It will make you calmer, and then it will make you sharper, and you will look more attentive, and you look like a potential partner rather than a seeker of a job. What I've just given you there is world-class psychology right there. So meaning whether you are going for a job or negotiating for a deal, always look at it not as someone doing you a favor, also look at it as if you want to see, you are also going to test them to see if they're a good fit or not. The other mindset is the interview does not determine your value as an individual. This is big because I've found people who have failed interviews before, whose psychology was beaten down, they were low, and they had to really amp their confidence and self-esteem. So what I'm encouraging you to think about is that you are valuable. You're a child of God, and your value is who you are in terms of the value you bring to the marketplace, not what the person says that you are. Okay. And just someone saying no, interviewers who are rude, they can smash you to pieces if you're not ready. And some of them use it as a way to test you to see whether you have the calmness or the mettle. And some of them literally lack emotional intelligence to be aware that what they are doing is very costly to humanity, so to speak. So never let someone determine how your value as an individual. So my daughters, I keep encouraging them to say positive things to one another. So they keep reporting, if one says something not nice about the camp, Daddy, so-and-so, she said that I'm this. So for my 7-year-old who is of good understanding, so today I was explaining to her, I said, by the way, never let someone, what they say about you, determine who you are and how you feel. Always believe in yourself that you're a great person, that you're a great girl, that you're a beautiful, valuable girl. Says, okay, Daddy. So, and I know she's getting that. So the same way I was speaking to my daughter is the way I would speak to you and say, look, regardless of what happens in the interview, it's not going to determine your value as an individual. Now, why is this psychology important? Number one, in case you do not succeed in your current interview, it does not beat you down, because if you do not hold that mindset, then it means in the next interview, you will feel very low. And when you're very low and you bring in that low energy, people will pick it up and they will say, we don't want to take that lady. We don't want to take that gentleman on board. There's something which is not right. And what is not right is the energy you bring into the room. So remember, they buy you, you're a whole package. And the package is not just your skills and abilities. It is all these things, your attitude, your energy, your vibe, all these things. So that's one aspect in that it will not affect you for your next interview. The second key thing to note is for you, when you think about that, in that your interview does not determine your value as an individual, then it means you will not have that tense attitude when you enter the room, because then you're like, no, I'm valuable. So, and therefore, when you enter, you're telegraphing at a spiritual level that a valuable person has entered, which will serve you in good ways. The other mindset is you've already been accepted for and invited to an interview. So you qualify. So meaning you qualify for the job. If you did not qualify, then you wouldn't be invited. You're there on merit. So if you're there on merit, you should feel happy and you should be relaxed about the whole situation. So you're there on merit. You know, unless someone paid money for you to be there, which there's a 99.9999% chance that that's not the case. So you qualify, you were invited, you weren't forced there, you did not beg, you qualified. So if you qualified, therefore, you should go there with a sense of, I am entitled to this, I deserve this, not entitled, but I deserve this. This is where I belong. And by the way, you should talk to yourself like that because no one else is going to do that for you. Talk to yourself like that. My coach today was reminding me about the value of constantly affirming yourself. The other mindset is your success is dependent on competence and effort, not luck. So that's how you should prepare. So sometimes when I'm convincing people to invest in their preparation for the oral interviews, I always tell them, look, and by the way, this is something I strongly believe in, whether it's for oral interviews or any other aspect of life. When I had just finished university, I overheard a tape. I used to listen to Les Brown many times then. I need to start listening to him again. It's been many years since then. But so one of his teachers said, one of his mentors told him this, and it really stuck with me. He said, it's better for you to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than for an opportunity to come and it finds you unprepared. So preparation is key. And therefore, you have to tell yourself that the more effort I put in, the more competent the more competencies I have, the more effort I put in my game, then the more chances for success. All right. Justin, please type for me in the chat box the saying you told me in Uganda about preparation. Or you know something, you said it. Please type it for me, or you could say it. You could unmute and say it. Justin, if you're online. I remember seeing you, so.
Yes, Ethan, you've mentioned it. Because if it comes your way and you're not ready, it passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, so that's a Uganda saying that luck comes to those who are prepared. So it's not just luck, it's just that even there are other sayings in English that luck is where opportunity meets preparation or readiness. So are you ready? And that also means part of your mindset with, say, these interviews. If you find, for example, there's a certain skill set that you feel made you fail to get that job, then go for that skill, learn that skill, prepare yourself, such that for the next job interview, then that skill is in your corner. Or if there is a certain kind of experience that you are not, that you feel held you back, go find a way or an opportunity for you to develop that experience. So you prepare, that's competence now. Effort is in you preparing. So when I'm motivating prospects to enroll for one-on-one coaching with the interviews, I tell them, look, the last thing you want is for you to enter that room and do not succeed. And then you're like, okay, I wish I had engaged Ethan one-on-one for these sessions. But then the opportunity is already gone. You did not go the extra effort, the extra mile, I beg your pardon. So effort is about you preparing. And even if you do not have the money for coaching, as an example, then prepare, find a way. And then I'm going to give you some strategies on how you can do that. But just remember that the part of the mindset is competence and effort invested in is where the magic is. Now, let's look at strategies, interview strategies that work. Number one, Preparation. So it's called the one step ahead strategy. So you have to anticipate questions in your field of interest, at least the technical questions. You have to anticipate and know, okay, if I'm an engineer, what are the potential questions around engineering that could pop up? Okay. And one of the tricks you could use actually is to talk to, say, a fellow engineer who has been interviewed, find out what sort of questions did they ask. Now, they may ask those or they may not. And of course, I'll highlight some of the common ones regardless of the industry. So prepare for those. And I mean both the technical and the soft skills. The technical are those things we all do. If, for example, you're going for a sales job, they might ask, what steps do you need to go through to close a deal or to close a sale? And so you should know this. That's a technical question. Now, soft skills questions could be things around, say, communication. It could be about you dealing with tragedy or dealing with a setback. How do you deal with failure? All those are soft skill questions. But they might even ask a question of, what if you're in conflict with your supervisor? How do you go about that? Now, don't ask me the answer for now, because that's because of the time that we have. So now that's a soft skill question. But so if you're going for a leadership role, for example, you might say, okay, what if you have this project and the whole team revolts or says no to it, and yet the CEO wants you to make sure that it's a success? How do you go about that? So now that's both technical, these are technical aspects to it, and most critically, there is a soft aspect to it. Do background checks on the organizations that you're going for. Read, ask questions. If you have contacts there or people have worked there before, ask. It's not illegal to ask. What is this organization like? What do they focus on? Now, if you are going to look at that organization, what are some of the things I would look out for if you go online? What is their vision? What is their mission? What is their values? Now, most organizations you also find, like very big organizations, they might show their strategic objectives. Now, if they are not there on the website, go online and type in. Most likely, they talked about it some time back. Type in strategic objectives for this organization. Now, why are those things important? Let me give you a clue. Not a clue, but let me give you an idea, which I believe is a very powerful idea. Assuming someone is asking me how or why I should be considered for the job and all this, you could say something along the lines of, look, is to grow your market share by 10% this year. And the good news is, in my previous job, I found that the market share was at 3%, and in 2 years, I grew it by an extra 5 points. So I grew it to 8% within 12 months. So if you have a person like me on board, then you'll know that your strategic objective of increasing your market share is well taken care of. Wow, is that an answer or what? Here is the clue. Let me give you the psychology in that answer. Number one, I've demonstrated my abilities, that I am an achiever. Number two, I've demonstrated that I am aware of what the strategic objectives of this organization are. Number three, I am connecting my abilities and experience to what they want to achieve. So meaning I'm a perfect fit. Remember, organizations, when they invite you for the oral interview, they want to find out who is the perfect fit. And right there, you've demonstrated. So meaning you need to know their history, their present, and their future. Then ask yourself, how do I fit in their present and the future? And how can you demonstrate or communicate that to show them that you're a perfect fit now and a perfect fit for the future? Next is you need to anticipate their interviewers' concerns and reservations. Okay, I'll talk about that. I will expound on that a little later. Prepare for USP. You will deliver this when talking about yourself. USP is unique selling proposition. What makes you unique? And you need to articulate that. You need to think about that. What is so special about you that you need to package and show them and say, hey, this is what you'd miss, just like Juliet mentioned, this is what you'd miss if you didn't engage me. But I want to build that towards the end again. But I want to first cover these last points. Prepare to discuss your weakness. Now, with your weakness, that's another tricky question. There are people who say, when the people ask you about usually one of the questions is your strengths and weaknesses. Those need to be clear in your head. And also when you're talking about your strengths, if you can connect them to how useful they are to the organization, even better. Now with weakness, most people miss out on the weakness question. I see a couple of mistakes. One, there are people who say, I cannot really think of a weakness now. Lies. They will think that you're lying. Number two, there are those who attempt to be clever. My weakness is that I can really work so hard. You're being too clever. They will catch you, okay? Number three, so what is the proper answer? The proper answer is find an actual weakness and then do not mention many, mention one, okay? Mention many strengths and then mention one weakness. And then talk about how you're planning or how you're on the way to solving it. So, and please do not mention a weakness which you know is very critical to the job role. So even if it's one of your weaknesses, at least pick one which you know is not extremely critical. For example, you're going for a sales job and then you say, my weakness is I fear talking to people. I fear talking to strangers. Now that's very critical. So even if it is, pick another weakness. Now, does that mean that you're lying? No, you're not lying. You're picking a weakness that you have. Again, do not lie, please. Do not lie. I have to insist. Even with your strength, never lie because it might catch up with you. So pick a weakness and say, you know what? You could say, you pick a weakness and say, and having noticed that I'm working on it, or I enrolled for a course on it, and I know I'm a quick learner, this is something I would be very open to learn from the team, but especially if you have a particular strategy to solve it. Okay. Also, you can practice with say your colleagues or friends as a mock interview. Now, if you don't have friends to practice with, you can use your phone, record yourself, listen to yourself with the answers or those answers, so to speak. And then, this is a big then, listen back. Would you give a job to that person? All right. Now, let me go back to the point I mentioned that I needed to highlight. Anticipate the interviewer's concerns and reservations. So let's just suppose you discover that they want in the job advert, they highlighted a particular area which you're not strong at. So you need to prepare ahead of time an answer to that question. Don't just go and say, oh Lord, I pray that they do not bring up a question related to that. Prayer is good, but even better, in addition to prayer, please prepare yourself. Let me give you an example. They might say, but on your what we are looking for is a leader. We wanted leadership experience. And when you look at your CV, we are actually not seeing any leadership. We don't see you being in a managerial or leadership role. So that could be, now you know that that's going to be a concern. They like these other things. It's going to, so how do you package yourself? You could say, and again, it has to be true. Okay, please, I do not believe in lies. One of my values is integrity. And if they catch you out, you lose that job. So you might discover though, that in your previous work or relationships that you actually had leadership opportunities. Say, look, it's true that, on my profile, it does not show. And what I did not mention, or what I would like to bring to your attention, is when I was in high school, whenever there was a project to be engaged in, I was always picked on. For example, I led the team. The band didn't have resources to be able to go and perform at a certain function. They were short of 200,000 Uganda shillings. And I said, I'll take the lead on fundraising and organizing to make sure that this event is a success. I organized everyone, I mobilized people, and boom, we got that band to be a mega success. In my view, that's true leadership and managerial skills. Secondly, in my former work, Also, I remember there was this other task and I took leadership, and this is what I did. And therefore that demonstrates that I actually have leadership and managerial skills. The point I'm making is there are many, so in life, it's not just about the formal things, it's also about the informal things and how you package them, how you put everything together. I have a good friend of mine, you know, he was sharing with us, I won't share the details of the company and all that, but they interviewed, you know, he had gone to all these countries and done all several kinds of jobs. He had the expertise and he was going for a senior role. This is for a global conglomerate, an international company. So they said, okay, we've seen you can do all these things, but the question is, can you get your hands dirty? And he said, well, that's a good question. I remember when I was a teenager, my father used to rear pigs and we had to clean the pigsty. And I went in and cleaned, and my father came and said, you know what? This is not very clean. Said, even if it's a pigsty, it has to be spot clean. So I knew that every time my dad gave me a job, I had to make sure that everything was spot clean. Therefore, I know what getting my hands dirty is. And I understand that got him a job. So it's about how you package. Next, the personality strategy. This is key. Now, this is how you, remember, they buy you fast beyond what is on paper, all right? So what else do you have? So there are a couple of things: warmth, confidence, congruence. Congruence means that what you speak matches your body language and tone of voice. That's what part of what I teach in public speaking. That's a class I would encourage you to order those, that 10 modules. And it's one of the concepts I teach big time. But congruence is, you have to be, if you speak with doubt, as an example, even if you say, let me give you an example. If you say, I believe I can do it, I believe I can do it, people will not believe you. But when you say, I believe I not only can, but will, I know myself based on history, and here is an example. Boom. Now that's being congruent. Originality. Now, don't force an accent, all right? If you don't have one, become good voice. We talked about that. Punctuality. There's someone who was sent to my office for an opportunity and they arrived 30 minutes late. And I said, well, sorry, we won't even talk. I said, but I was late by only 30 minutes. Oh, God have mercy on that wonderful lady. I don't even remember her name. But you see, punctuality, because again, everything you do or do not do is going to affect how you're perceived. And perception beats information, period. Okay, or how people perceive or think about you is more important than what you think they should think about or not. Are you a listener? Meaning, are you really paying attention? Are you aware? Audibility. So what you do is when you're speaking, just imagine like there are like 3 other rows or 3 to 5 rows behind the last person in front of you. Then project your voice there. Be audible. Push yourself. Ending on a high. Ending on a high. I told you about starting on a high. How do you end on a high? Part of how you end on a high is to say, rather than only stopping on when should I expect to know about the outcome of this interview, you could say something along the lines of, I would like to thank you very much for this. And just again to remind you, if you give me an opportunity, these are the special qualities I have, and this is the value I would be bringing to the table. And just to let you know that you'll be making a wise decision hiring me because of 1, 2, 3, 4 things. So that way you're ending on a high, you're wrapping up, you're reminding, because remember, it could be a long interview and some of these people could be tired. They have forgotten what you said. So people remember what you say at the beginning and what you say at the end most times. Next, the container strategy. Wow, time. That smartness is non-negotiable. So please be smart. If you're a gentleman and it's a typical formal role, minimum you should put on a jacket or at least a tie, period. Ladies typically know this game very well. So this is mainly for us guys, for the guys to pay attention to. Appropriate body scent. So please do not use a very strong perfume. It doesn't serve you well. Now, to answer an interview, one of the things that you really need is to have your notebook ready. Okay, note down the names of the panelists. So the truth of the matter is, up until now, I'm not yet brilliant with names. So what you do is, if they are arranged from one, so there's John, there's James, there's Jane. So you, on your paper, you find a way to organize them so that when you're speaking, say, well, thanks a lot, Mr. whoever or Madam who, and so that you refer to them by name. It always makes a big difference. So someone was asking about the seat. I remember that must have been one of the questions, if my memory serves me right. Don't give yourself a seat. So you come in, you stand, you smile. Or here is another trick I always recommend. Greet the panelists. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Then stand still and wait. Once you're given the seat, then go and sit. Please do not give yourself a seat and then say, I hope it is okay for me to sit. That alone shows that you lack professional etiquette, and that alone can make you lose it. Okay, please mute and then ask a question when given an opportunity. Now, when you're not sure, it's not a must, but at least the one basic question that you have a right to is, I'm just curious, when should I expect the when should we expect, or when should I expect the outcomes of this interview? You have a right towards that. Anne says some of the jobs I've gotten previously, the interview has begun by indicating it was just a chat. This indeed got me relaxed and surely helped me excel. So therefore, if you know that that is powerful, therefore you can actually tell yourself the same thought, okay? That, oh, this is just a chat. All right. Just a second. Let's talk about the skill sets. It's the OCTOPA model for acing interviews, acing or passing interviews. Number one, originality, meaning you don't have to just say what everyone says, just be open to be creative. And I'm not going to give you the rules of creativity. It's okay for you to be different, to be original, so long as it is legal, moral, and ethical, plus also respectful, okay? Even when we talk about confidence, does not mean arrogance. Confidence and self-belief. So always believe in yourself. Again, to remind you that you're there on merit, you're a child of God, you have the abilities. So that's the mentality you go with. And like you notice the numbers, people hire, one of the qualities they look for definitely is self-confidence and self-belief, because if you don't, then they will know that those doubts you have in your head are going to affect your performance. Technical knowledge. Do you know what you're talking about? It's okay for you to even, if for these technical jobs, it's okay for you to read materials, to remind yourself of the steps. Also remember, they might ask you scenarios or case studies. So that's where the technical knowledge comes in very handy. Do not take anything for granted. I insist. Let me repeat that. Do not take anything for granted. Double check everything, check stuff so that you're able to perform at your very best. Next, organization information, double check it, know it by heart, and then that information is going to help you big time. Next, presentation skills. Please learn this. These days, there's that mentality, not mentality. These days, especially when it is middle management and above, especially senior, especially managerial jobs, there's always an 80% chance that you're going to be asked to present. If it's a high-level job, meaning C-suite level, then there is a 99.99% chance that you're going to be asked to make a presentation. So learn how to speak, how to present to people. And then, of course, what you do is, should you get to know ahead of time and they tell you the number of minutes you have, then, get someone to time you or time yourself so that you're in tune. Appearance and self-presentation. We said, you remember I said that within the first few seconds, people get to know, then first 90 seconds, they get to know whether they should hire you or not. When you're entering that room, they make a decision. For example, they make a decision based on how you're appearing. Now, you might, for example, I advise gentlemen, if you're traveling and you don't have your own car, as an example, is carry some TP, carry a brush, and start when you get to the venue, brush your shoes, remove the dust. You not having a car, as an example, shouldn't be an excuse for you to have dirty shoes with dust and all that. You think about all these scenarios because you know they're going to be judging you. Okay. Now, the other thing that I've been teaching clients privately, but which I feel, my high-level clients, but which I feel is very crucial for me to tell you, is one of the big questions that people miss or mess up is around the question of tell us about yourself. Now, when they ask you, tell us about yourself, there are a couple of things you need to pay attention to. Number one, of course, education and work experience is always a must. But then number two, the tip I've been teaching my high-level clients, which I'm passing on to you, is think about an achievement you've had that would speak to that job that you're applying for, so that when you're starting, you say, okay, I've had several achievements which I'll be talking about as we go through the interview. But one which comes to mind is this. I did this, and what it says about me is this, and this is how I believe I could be of service. Then that way, in that first 90 seconds that you are talking about, boom, all of a sudden you're framing them to think and say, hey, this is someone that we need to know, to consider. I believe we have a candidate. That's the conclusion you want them to have when you're just starting, when you're asking that question. And of course, it's okay to add hobbies, family, and if you're passionate about what you're applying for, also mention. And it has to be honest. If you're not passionate about that industry, please don't say that, because they will ask you for a backup. Say, by the way, I'm very passionate about this because of ABCD, because tell us about yourself. They want to like a summarized view of who you are, and that's how you get that. The other way, you can also go to Facebook, search for, look under my videos. I did a video on that with more detail. Now tell us about yourself. Next, before we go to mastery, so your task is to prepare for an interview using the 4 strategies given, and it could be a real interview or an imaginary one. And what you do is just again to remind you, the 4 strategies, they are right here. That's the core meat of this. The preparation, you anticipate, pay attention to your personality, and then the container, of course. And when we say things like warmth, go into the mirror and practice accordingly, all right? So the one thing I would also encourage you this evening or morning, whatever the time is you're watching this recording, is what did you find most useful in this presentation, and how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business? Okay, so that's the question you should reflect upon. Okay. So someone asked, Clear, how do you maintain balance when you're faced with rude panelists? Okay. So that's a big question. So this is what I would do. If someone is rude, number one is focus on your breathing. Number two, stay as calm as possible. And number three, because when you stay calm, remember it's one panelist who is rude, and others will be noticing how are you responding, because the truth of the matter is one day you might face a rude boss or a rude manager. So how are you managing? That alone is a test. And number two, it could be part of the test. They know that the person you're going to be answerable to is a rude one. So they want to see how are you responding. Okay, there are those possibilities. So either way, you need to treat yourself with finesse and class. So number one, I would work as much as possible to stay calm. Number two, I mentioned about you paying attention to your breath. Number three, remind yourself that it's not about you, it's about them. The person is just rude. It's not that there's something wrong with you. Number 4, again, remind yourself what took you there. What took you there is to demonstrate that you're the best candidate possible. And number 2, to demonstrate your competencies. And number 3, to win your job. So you quickly psych yourself, tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to focus on giving my best regardless. And if someone else says thanks again, so be courteous, stay calm, then the rest are watching. Okay. Kimbo asked earlier, what about interviews where the panel is focusing on your personal life? Well, Chimboa, they have every right to go into your personal life, because sometimes one of the reasons why they are looking at your personal life is they want to see, again, I need to know the context, is usually they want to see whether you're the right person, so to speak. So when you're talking about your personal life, remember this. Pick out the moments, the segments that show that indeed you're a qualified candidate. So for every experience, for every positive experience, you can demonstrate, say, by the way, I did this, and what that says about me is that I am a focused person, and what that would mean for you if you brought me on board is that you'd have a focused individual here. So every story can be turned into something valuable. Let's just suppose you failed somewhere and it becomes a big issue. You could say, look, I know that happened, and the truth of the matter is, true winners are those who have faced failure and still emerged. Guess what? I failed, I got myself up together, and here I am. So the benefit you'd have by having a person like me is that I've already earned the experience and the lessons from those failures, meaning next time I won't repeat those failures. And number 2, at least it demonstrates that I have the resilience. The fact that I'm in this room shows that I'm able to be resilient amidst challenges and still get back up and go. And I believe that's the kind of employee that you need. See, so you can get any challenge, and then you ask yourself, what is the positive about this, and how useful is it for the organization? So with your personal life, ask yourself, so whatever the issue is, ask yourself, what is the value in that personal experience that you could sell to these people to see that indeed you're the right candidate? Remember, in my post, I said, your job is not to inform people. Your job is to persuade people. That's the other mindset I forgot. And too bad, a good number of people have already left. They have missed that killer mindset. So your job is focused on persuasion, not just information. So you see, I am using that info to sell myself. So you use every experience to sell yourself. Kimbo, let me know if that makes sense. Please do interviews that are virtual. Interviews that are virtual, there are a couple of basics. Number 1, please find a good or excellent internet connection. That's rule number 1 in the world that we are in. Number 2, if you do not have, when it's a background, make sure that there are no distractions, because then remember your background also speaks volumes. Number 3, your dress still matters. I would still put on a tie as an example. If I was going for a very formal or serious job, I would put on a tie and a suit. Your dress is still key. The next is, you notice, like where I am now, I'm facing the window. So light should be hitting you, you should not have your back against the light. Next is be as audible as possible. Okay. Next, make sure that you have a backup for internet. So I know I have I'm using broadband, but I have a dongle and I have a phone. So at least I have 2 backups here. So make sure you have those backups. The other thing is, it's okay to use gestures also when you're in an interview. Sit upright. If you have to sit, if you're able to stand, that's even better. Like right now I'm standing, it's perfectly fine. But if you're not comfortable with standing, please don't do it just because I asked you to, but make sure you sit upright. The next is, make sure when you're in an interview, your eyes should be looking at the camera, not the people. When you're speaking, look at the camera. When you look at the eyes of the camera on the lens, not the camera, the lens, I don't know whether it's the lens on your either phone or laptop or desktop, That's why your eyes should be on the lens. Why? Because right now I'm looking at the lens and that makes you feel like I'm looking at you. So that's another trick right there. I hope I've answered your question. And of course, the other principles to apply. Naboth, please let me know if that is helpful. Brian was asking, integrate interview for promotion or internal vacancy I applied for. So yeah, when you're applying for a job internally, I believe you have a huge advantage. For example, people I coach for oral interviews, I have a 70% success rate on average. But for people who are internal, it's 80% on average, actually. Why? Because people already know you. There is that rapport already created. So, but here's the big mistake most people make. They assume that just because you've had these achievements, you're already there, that it's a guarantee. No, never take anything for granted. So still, you need to package your past achievements and show them how it is useful, how it communicates that you're the best candidate possible. So and then next is, remember, even if it's an internal job, usually they'll bring in someone external. So speak as if no one knew you. So that's how you should package yourself, because there could be a board member, there could be a consultant. I know, like at Success Africa, sometimes you are given opportunities to recruit people. So just know that usually you find there are other characters. So when you're packaging yourself, package as if these people, no one knows you. You're there to perform. Do not show familiarity. Say, but you know, Jane, you remember like the other project, we were together, you remember. Jane, in that moment, even if she's your colleague, at that moment, she is your boss. She's a decision maker in that moment. And in that moment, they may decide that you're just disrespectful and you lose the opportunity. So and then the rest of the principles still apply. And take it, I mean, no, let me not say take it. Just imagine, by the way, this applies to all of us, whether it's an internal job or it's a new job, external. Just visualize success. See yourself being a success in whatever you're going for. Then that will influence how you show up. Please comment on passing an aptitude test. Adiango, that's really not my strength. I have to be very upfront with you. I'm very strong with orals, okay? How do you sell yourself in front of the team, in front of the panelists? I beg your pardon. My only comment I would add is, when you're going for an aptitude test, is make sure you're relaxed and have enough rest. And if you don't know something or whatever it is, again, stay relaxed until you at least have the mental and emotional resources to answer the rest of the questions. And I liked one of the participants mentioned that if you don't know something, it's okay to say, it's okay for you to say, you know what, I apologize, I don't know about that. And what I can promise you is I would, from now onwards, not onwards, once I'm done here, I'm going to look for the answer, and given the opportunity, I would be more than glad to give you the answer. See, I've shown that I don't know, and I'm showing the smartness, the responsibility to say, I'll look for the answer and then I'll give you the answer. Okay. So never lie. Godfrey, please support on the sensitive questions on why you left your previous employer, especially where it was not a very smooth separation. Godfrey, that's a great question. If it wasn't a smooth operation, not operation, but separation, I would be tactical and sensitive at the same time. What do I mean tactical and sensitive? Let's just suppose that there was huge conflict, or the manager was not respectful, and there was, it was ugly and all that. So you may not go into all the details. So I wouldn't do a smear campaign. Please do not use that as an opportunity to do a smear campaign of your former employer. You'd say, look, assuming that was the situation, I'm just giving you a scenario because I don't know the details. I've just given you that as a scenario. So how would I respond to that as Ethan? I would say, look, first of all, it was a wonderful opportunity working there. I learned a lot. And down the road, the relationship could not work out for one reason or the other. And out of respect for my employer, I wouldn't want to go into the details. It's just that I noticed that it would be a healthier choice for me to leave for the good of the organization and myself, I felt that it would be a smart move for me to move on. Okay, so what I've done there is I've hinted there was an issue related to the relationship, and I'm also not doing a smear campaign. I'm showing the professionalism to say, no, what I want to keep that intact, so to speak. So what I'm doing, what I've done right there is I've shown I'm not doing a smear campaign. Number two, I'm professional. Number three, it means if I ever leave this organization, they are going to get me into, if I'm asked such a question, that I value confidentiality, okay? So in other words, I'm using that hot soup question to demonstrate my professionalism. So again, you use every opportunity to sell yourself. Luma number says helpful. Brian says, this will be with the recruitment firm and executive director. You have helped me, be blessed. Okay, great. Godfrey says, spot on, great. How do you answer if asked, what are your weaknesses or strengths? Wow, Kathy, it means you came in when I had finished that segment, but let me answer it. Strength, mention as many strengths as possible, and also don't just stop at the strength. Say, and what that means to you is if I'm brought on board, let's just suppose I'm brilliant with communications, an area I'm very strong at. I'm very strong with communications. And by the way, when you say strength, back it up, very strong with communications. And for example, for every event at our workplace, I was always the one doing emceeing or doing communications in the papers, if there's something to write. And what that means to you is if you bring me on board, this is how it would be useful. It means if you have anything communication related, you'd have someone handy. Of course, you can make it a little short, make it a bit shorter than what I've demonstrated. I was just explaining. Then for the weakness, like I mentioned, you mention a weakness that you feel is not very costly to the job you're applying for, and then talk about how you're handling resolving that weakness or minimizing that weakness. I hope, Kathy, that's helpful. When asked about how much do you expect as a salary, so this, and some people say, for me, I'm sure you have, that's a great question. I'm sure you have a figure, and me, I'm comfortable with that. No. Always do your research. So what I would do is you make your research, find out what the range is, and then you can mention and say, look, for me, I would be comfortable in this range of this much to this much. Let's just assume their budget, the range is say $2,000. Say, look, I'd be happy of anywhere between, that is if you're comfortable, that is, anywhere between 1,800 to 2,500. And if there is anything more, yes, I would be more than glad to take that on. So yeah, you have to know your figures, give a range, but it shouldn't be so varied in difference. All right. May the good Lord bless you. And I hope you got value.